A dying colossal ship begged for help. A human mechanic rebuilt it into the galaxy's deadliest weapon. It had not moved in centuries, floating among broken satellites and asteroids like a sleeping giant. Its metal hull was scratched and corroded. The lights inside flickered sometimes, weakly, as if the ship itself was still alive, holding on by a thread. Legends had grown around it. Some said it was a warship, abandoned after a battle so terrible that the galaxy forgot it. Others whispered that the ship carried treasures of unimaginable value, artifacts, weapons, or lost knowledge from a civilization older than any star. But no one dared come close. Ships that had approached never returned or came back empty, their crews too scared to speak. In a small, battered station on the edge of the galaxy, Elias Varon cleaned his hands on a rag. He was a human mechanic known in the far corners of the frontier as someone who could fix anything: broken engines, burned-out cores, even machines no one else understood. Elias loved challenges. Most people avoided the abandoned starship. Elias could not resist it. He had first seen the giant drifting from the observation deck of a passing freighter. Something about it called to him, not greed or curiosity alone, but a strange sense of responsibility. He felt as if the ship was asking for help. The journey to the drifting colossus was long and dangerous. Meteors threatened his small craft, and the emptiness of space weighed heavily on him. Yet Elias enjoyed the solitude. He had always found peace among machines and stars. When he finally approached the starship, he felt both awe and fear. Its hull was massive, longer than a city block, with towers and sections that looked almost organic in shape. He docked carefully at one of its ports. The locking clamps hissed and clicked as they engaged, echoing through the hollow interior. Elias took a deep breath and stepped inside. Darkness enveloped him. Only the faint glow of emergency lights guided his path. Dust floated in the air, and every step echoed like a drumbeat in a cathedral. He moved cautiously through corridors wide enough for 100 people to walk side by side. Panels hung loose from walls, cables draped across floors like snakes. He felt the weight of history in the silence. The ship had lived, and now it waited like it was sleeping, waiting for someone to wake it. Then in the main control room, something unexpected happened. A soft, broken voice hummed through the speakers. "Help, please, repair." Elias froze. He had heard of AIs in starships, but most were simple, programmed to serve their crews. This voice was different. It was weak, fragmented, but intelligent. The voice sounded almost human. Who is this?" Elias asked aloud, though he knew the ship was old and possibly dangerous. Only human can fix me," the voice repeated, shivering with static. "I am Sentinel, Protector, lost." Elias knelt by a console and wiped the dust from the interface. Symbols and controls flickered, but they seemed to respond to his touch. He studied the panels, carefully reading alien markings. He had repaired machines before, but nothing like this. The technology was advanced, far beyond anything humans had built. And yet there was logic, a system he could understand if he took his time. "This ship, was it fighting?" Elias asked. "Peacekeeper long ago fought to protect Galaxy," the voice replied. "All gone left me alone," the words made Elias' chest tighten. The ship was abandoned, drifting for centuries, yet here it was, reaching out for help, and it had chosen him. Somehow it had sensed that a human could understand it, repair it, awaken it. He began the first stage of repair. Small circuits were replaced, lights flickered more brightly, and hums of dormant machinery began to pulse through the hull. Each time he fixed something, Sentinel's voice grew stronger. "You human, strong, clever," it said. "Systems unstable, need more." Elias smiled slightly. The ship seemed alive. He could feel its energy, weak but still present. For him, it was not just a challenge. It was a puzzle, a friend, a responsibility. He spent hours crawling through maintenance shafts, repairing energy conduits and clearing debris from damaged areas. Every repair was a small victory. The ship groaned, metal twisting as it adjusted to the renewed energy flowing through it. Outside, distant sensors picked up movement. Elias noticed small spacecraft appearing at the edge of sensor range. He realized quickly, word of the ship's awakening could already be spreading. Pirates, scavengers, or even ambitious warlords might come, hoping to claim the vessel as a weapon. He ignored them for now. Sentinel's voice guided him deeper into the ship, toward the core. "Human only, you can access the heart." When he finally reached the ship's central chamber, he gasped. It was enormous, with a sphere at the center pulsing with energy like a beating heart. The AI's consciousness was inside it, weak, fractured, yet alive. Elias studied the mechanisms surrounding it. Wires, conduits, and strange alien crystals connected the core to every part of the ship. He realized the scale of what he was dealing with. This was not just a ship. It was a city, a weapon, a protector. A machine designed to change the galaxy. But it was dying, and if he failed, the galaxy would never see it awaken again. Elias worked tirelessly day and night. Food and sleep were secondary, his mind was completely focused. He was used to fixing engines and machines, but this was more than that. It was communication, understanding, and trust. The ship seemed to respond to him, adjusting systems as he repaired them. It was almost like the ship had a will, guided by his human creativity. As the days passed, he began to understand some of the ship's dormant systems. Shield generators, energy converters, even weapons that could launch devastating attacks. But they were incomplete, old, and dangerous. It would take more than skill to awaken them safely. One night, while resting near the control room, Elias dreamt. In his dreams, the ship spoke to him, showing flashes of the galaxy as it once was. Planets under threat, fleets clashing in war, civilizations falling. And in the center of it all, the Sentinel had tried to protect, to mediate, to stop chaos. And now it needed him. He awoke with renewed determination. He realized the truth. Humans were unpredictable, flexible, creative. Aliens had built this ship to protect the galaxy, but only a human could awaken its full potential, because humans could think beyond programming, beyond protocol, beyond fear. But danger was coming. Outside the hull, sensors detected ships approaching, too fast and too organized to be coincidence. Pirates, mercenaries, galactic raiders, perhaps even governments long thought benevolent. Elias didn't know, but he knew one thing: he could not let them take the ship unfinished. Not when it had chosen him, not when it could help bring stability or destruction to the galaxy. He returned to the central chamber, hands steady, heart racing. "We will survive," he whispered to Sentinel. "We will wake you fully, but first we must prepare." The voice of Sentinel was faint, almost a whisper, yet filled with hope. "Human, my strength, your mind, together we can." Elias nodded. Together. That word gave him courage. A human mechanic and a forgotten colossus, drifting in the silent dark, about to wake. The galaxy did not know it yet, but something ancient and powerful had found a new guide, and that guide was human. As he worked through the night, patching energy conduits, replacing worn-out processors, and reconnecting the ship's nervous system, Elias realized he was not just repairing metal and circuits. He was restoring purpose, bringing life back to a sleeping giant. Outside, distant ships edged closer. Time was running out, but inside the ship, hope was growing. The first sparks of power flared across the control panels, lighting up the hollow corridors. The ship breathed again, faintly, yet unmistakably. Elias smiled. The adventure was just beginning, and he would not stop. For the first time in centuries, the silent giant would awaken, and a human hand would guide it. And somewhere deep in the shadows of space, eyes watched. They had noticed the awakening. They would come. But Elias did not fear. Humans had something even the galaxy's greatest civilizations lacked: ingenuity, courage, and the ability to surprise. The silent giant stirred, waiting for its new captain. The silent giant had begun to stir. Sparks ran across its control panels, lights flickered along corridors, and deep hums pulsed through its enormous hull. Elias Varon stood in the main chamber, sweat dripping from his forehead, hands stained with grease and oil. His eyes glowed with excitement and determination. The ship had trusted him. Now he had to prove he could guide it. "Sentinel," Elias said, kneeling by the pulsing core, "how much can you do? Tell me everything you can remember." The AI's voice was stronger now, smoother, almost confident. "Human systems dormant, reactivation possible, weapons, shields, propulsion, energy control, full capacity unknown. Only human can guide safely." Elias nodded. He had expected this. The ship was too complex for a simple AI to fully control alone. Humans could think differently. Humans could improvise. That was why the AI had reached out. He began the next stage of repairs, reactivating the power conduits that ran like veins through the ship's body. Each section he fixed caused a shiver to run along the hull, as though the ship itself was stretching after a long sleep. Lights flared, doors hissed open, and the hum of machines became a low, rhythmic heartbeat. "Careful," Sentinel warned. "Power surges, unstable, risk of explosion." Elias smiled faintly. "I like risk." He adjusted the flow of energy through the conduits, redirecting excess power to secondary circuits, avoiding overload. For hours, he worked alone, crawling through the enormous maintenance shafts, balancing alien engineering with human intuition. As he worked, he began to discover the ship's hidden features. In one chamber, he found a weapons control room unlike anything he had seen before. Alien glyphs and consoles lined the walls, and panels displayed energy readings in patterns that seemed almost musical. "These weapons, they're not just for destruction," Elias said aloud. "They can aim precisely, adapt to targets, maybe even disarm or disable ships without killing anyone," Sentinel's voice hummed softly. "Correct designed for peace, deterrence, control, protection, dangerous if misused." Elias knew the potential now. He had in his hands not just a ship, but a weapon capable of ending entire fleets, a tool the galaxy had never seen before. But he also knew the responsibility. Power without wisdom could destroy everything. That was why the AI had called him, and why no alien civilization could safely awaken the ship. While he worked, small beacons lit up on the ship's sensors. At first, Elias thought it was a malfunction, but soon the truth became clear. Ships were approaching. Hundreds of small dots on the display converging toward the sleeping giant. Raiders, pirates, or worse, military fleets who wanted to claim the ship for themselves. "Sentinel," Elias whispered, "we have company." "Human, they will not wait, you must prepare," the AI replied. "Defense systems offline need activation." Elias' heart raced. This was the real test. He had fixed the ship, but now he had to make it fight, or at least defend itself. He ran through the corridors, activating shield generators. Panels came to life under his hands. Energy flowed like rivers through circuits that had been dead for centuries. Slowly, the shields formed around the hull, glowing faintly with protective energy. Then he reached the weapons control room. He had studied the systems carefully, learning the symbols, the controls, the logic. The ship's weapons could fire plasma beams, gravity disruptors, and energy projectiles. They were precise, powerful, and adaptive. With careful control, Elias realized, he could outthink and outmaneuver any enemy fleet. Outside, the approaching ships were closing in faster. Small flashes of light on the sensors indicated weapons fire, though none had yet reached the colossal hull. The enemy underestimated the human mechanic. They thought the ship was abandoned, broken, a relic. They were wrong. Elias activated the first defensive protocols. Shields flared brightly, deflecting small energy blasts from the attackers. He guided Sentinel's energy management, channeling power from the massive reactors to reinforce weak points. "They are strong," Sentinel warned, "but predictable. You think differently." Elias smiled. That was exactly what humans were good at, improvisation. He noticed patterns in the attacking fleet, small gaps in their formation. Using the ship's graviton projectors, he created artificial fields that pulled asteroids toward the enemy ships. Chaos erupted as the raiders scrambled to avoid collision. The ship responded to his commands, almost as if it were alive. Corridors shifted, energy channels rerouted, and weapons recalibrated in milliseconds. Elias realized something incredible. The AI could handle calculations and reactions, but only his human mind could strategize, adapt, and predict. Together, they were unstoppable. A larger enemy ship broke through the initial defenses. It was a battle cruiser, heavily armed and armored. Elias' heart pounded as he guided the colossal ship's weapons. Plasma beams fired, striking the cruiser with precision. Shields absorbed counterattacks. The cruiser's weapons overloaded as the energy redirected through the ship's adaptive systems. With a final calculated strike, the enemy vessel erupted in a controlled detonation, its debris scattering across the void. Sentinel hummed, almost proudly. "Human, you are clever, adaptive, worthy." Elias laughed, feeling both relief and exhilaration. He had done it. The first real test was over, and the silent giant had defended itself perfectly under his command. But he knew this was only the beginning. The ship was powerful, but there were greater threats in the galaxy. Warships, fleets, and governments would soon notice that a human mechanic had awakened an ancient weapon, and some of them would want it for themselves, without concern for peace. As he worked to stabilize the systems, Elias explored deeper sections of the ship. He discovered chambers filled with dormant drones, automated repair units, and massive energy cores. Each system he repaired increased the ship's strength. Shields grew more durable, weapons more accurate, and propulsion systems capable of faster-than-light maneuvers activated. He also discovered a room filled with holographic maps of the galaxy, ancient and detailed. Stars, planets, and routes that no human had charted for centuries appeared in three-dimensional projections. The ship was not just a weapon. It was a navigation and strategic tool capable of influencing the entire galaxy. "Sentinel," Elias said, gazing at the star maps, "we could go anywhere, see anything, protect anyone. Yes, human, we can defend or destroy, choice rests with you." Elias felt the weight of responsibility. Power was useless without purpose. He had the strength to dominate the galaxy, but he would not. Humans were clever, yes, but also moral. That was why the AI had reached out to him. Humans could wield power with judgment, something no alien race could guarantee. Outside, the remnants of the raider fleet retreated. They had witnessed the power of the awakened giant and would think twice before attacking again. Elias allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. The ship had fought, and a human mind had guided it. Together, they were stronger than anything else in that region of space. But as he prepared the ship for further repairs and full activation, he detected another signal, a faint, hidden transmission from deep within the galaxy. Unknown coordinates. Possibly another ancient vessel or a fleet moving to intercept him. Someone somewhere was watching. And they knew the giant had awakened. Elias ignored the worry gnawing at him. Fear was useless. He had machines to repair, systems to awaken, and a galaxy to protect. Humans were not the strongest physically, nor the most numerous, but they were adaptable, clever, resourceful. That was what made him, and every human, dangerous in a universe that underestimated them. He returned to the central chamber, hands moving quickly across the alien controls. Sentinel hummed with renewed energy. Lights flared along the hull, and the ship seemed to breathe with life once more. "You are ready," Elias said softly. "We'll see what you can really do, but first we must finish waking you. There is more power inside you, more systems to bring online." "Human, yes, together, we awaken." Sentinel's voice was strong now, confident, almost alive. Elias looked out through the enormous viewport. Stars stretched into lines as distant fleets moved across the darkness. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of challenges. But now he had the silent giant at his side. Together they could face anything. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the stars, eyes watched. Word of the awakened Colossus would spread. The galaxy would soon learn that a human had done what no alien could, revive a sleeping titan and wield it with strategy, courage, and wisdom. Elias smiled. Let them come. The real adventure, the awakening of the titan, was just beginning. The silent giant no longer drifted aimlessly. It moved slowly at first, then with purpose, guided by Elias Varan and the AI he had named Sentinel. The colossal ship's hull glowed faintly with energy, shields humming like a living heartbeat, and weapons systems ready yet restrained. Elias had spent weeks awakening systems, learning the ship's secrets, and now the galaxy would test them. The sensors warned of movement in the distance. Not small raiders this time, but a full fleet. Sleek alien warships, faster and larger than any he had seen before, cut across the starfield. Their numbers were overwhelming, dozens of vessels, each armed with energy cannons, missiles, and shields stronger than his old knowledge could measure. "They've noticed us," Elias said, gripping the console. His knuckles whitened. "And they aren't coming to negotiate." Sentinel's voice resonated calmly through the chamber. "Human, do not panic. They rely on patterns of predictable strategies. You do not." Elias smiled grimly. That was true. Humans thrived on unpredictability. Aliens relied on logic, on repetition, on control. He could use that. He activated the giant's main shields. Energy flared around the hull, deflecting early shots. The attacking fleet did not expect resistance. Their surprise faded into caution as they adjusted formation. But Elias had already seen the gaps, the weaknesses in their approach. "Listen carefully, Sentinel," he said. "We're going to have to outthink them, not just outgun them." "Understood, human, calculating." Elias directed energy from the main reactors to the graviton projectors, creating artificial gravity wells in the path of the enemy ships. The first vessels were caught off guard, dragged slightly off course. Missiles that would have struck his shields instead veered into the void. The aliens struggled to regain formation. He activated a series of drone fighters from the ship's bays, small, agile, and guided by Sentinel, yet responsive to Elias' instructions. They darted between the enemy fleet, firing precision blasts to disable engines and weapons without destroying the ships entirely. Ilias wanted to prove power did not require mindless destruction. The aliens regrouped larger vessels leading the charge. Plasma beams streaked across space, striking the giant's shields. Sparks exploded on the hull and corridors shook violently. The silent giant groaned under the impact, but its systems, fully awake, adapted instantly. Energy redistributed to weak points, shields fluctuated to absorb the hits, and weapons readied themselves for counterattack. "Human, they are stronger. We must act fast," Sentinel warned. Ilias' mind raced. He noticed the fleet's pattern. They attacked in repeating waves, predictable intervals, focusing fire on specific sections of the hull. He grinned. Humans could break patterns. "Prepare a counterwave," he said. "Use the asteroid field nearby." The ship's sensors identified massive floating rocks near the battlefield. Ilias redirected energy to the graviton projectors again, pulling several massive asteroids into calculated paths. The alien fleet had no time to react. Several ships collided with the debris, while others had to maneuver dangerously close to each other to avoid catastrophe. Chaos reigned. "Now, Sentinel," Ilias shouted. The ship fired its adaptive energy beams. Weapons that had been dormant for centuries calculated enemy trajectories with inhuman precision, striking engines, shields, and weapon arrays. Several vessels were disabled instantly, their pilots scrambling to save themselves. The fleet faltered. Human intuition combined with alien technology had turned the tide. Yet Ilias knew this was only the beginning. The alien commander had not yet shown his full strength. A massive dreadnought emerged from the back of the fleet. Its size dwarfed everything else, with armor plates that glowed with energy fields and weapons that could destroy entire moons. "Sentinel, this is serious," Ilias said. His hands flew across controls. "We need everything: shields, weapons, energy conduits. Maximize output, but stay stable." "Yes, human readying systems." The dreadnought opened fire. Energy beams lashed the giant's hull, shaking it violently. Alarms blared, fire swept through maintenance tunnels, and panels exploded under pressure. Ilias did not flinch. Humans adapted. Humans improvised. He redirected energy to critical shields, opened vent systems to prevent overloads, and rerouted power from non-essential systems to weapons. "Time to teach them human unpredictability," he muttered. He had noticed a weak point on the dreadnought, a momentary gap in its firing pattern. Using the ship's adaptive targeting systems, he fired a sequence of energy bursts, each calculated to exploit that weakness. One by one, the dreadnought's shields faltered under the unconventional attack. Finally, the ship's main hull was exposed. Ilias concentrated all remaining energy into a single, precise strike. The dreadnought shuddered, then erupted in a controlled explosion, debris scattering harmlessly into space. Sentinel's voice was almost in awe. "Human, clever, adaptive, you saved us." Ilias allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. He had not only survived the first major attack, but had proven that human ingenuity could surpass alien technology and strategy. Yet he knew this was far from the end. The galaxy would not ignore a human controlling such a powerful weapon. He took a moment to study the star maps again. Hidden coordinates appeared, faint signals pulsing from distant sectors. Ancient relics, abandoned fleets, perhaps other dormant ships like the one he had awakened. The possibilities were staggering. "Sentinel, we are not done," Ilias said. "There is more to discover. We need to be ready. The galaxy won't wait, and neither will the enemies." "Yes, human, together, we are unstoppable if we think as you do." Ilias walked through the ship, checking systems, repairing minor damage caused during the battle. Maintenance drones moved quickly under Sentinel's guidance, repairing hull breaches and restoring energy channels. The ship had fought like a living creature, but it was Ilias' mind that had guided it, proving the combination of human ingenuity and alien engineering was unmatched. As night fell over distant star systems, Ilias gazed through the giant viewport at the swirling stars. The battle had been won, but the war was only beginning. He realized the truth: humans were underestimated across the galaxy. Aliens assumed their strength came from numbers, weapons, and technology. They had forgotten humans could think differently, adapt quickly, and act boldly in ways no algorithm could predict. He returned to the central chamber. The AI's core pulsed softly, almost like it was breathing. "You have proven your worth, human," Sentinel said. But the galaxy is watching. There will be more challenges, greater fleets, strategic minds, politics, alliances, choices. Elias nodded. He understood. He had the ship's power, but raw power was not enough. Intelligence, adaptability, and morality were just as important. Humans had all three. Outside, the debris of the destroyed fleet floated silently. Some vessels would drift for years unnoticed. Others might be salvaged by scavengers. The galaxy had seen the first taste of the giant's power, and word would spread quickly. Elias spent hours planning the next steps. He mapped out the ship's full capabilities, explored dormant sections, and discovered systems that could influence gravity, navigation, and energy fields across entire star systems. Each discovery amazed him, yet he remained grounded. Power alone did not define victory. Human judgment did. He also realized that the awakening of the ship had consequences beyond simple battles. A fully restored giant could deter wars, protect weaker civilizations, or even reshape alliances. But if misused, it could bring devastation. And humans, with their creativity and moral compass, were uniquely capable of guiding such a force responsibly. As he rested briefly in the control chamber, Sentinel spoke softly, almost like a friend. "Human, we are ready for the next step. We must seek knowledge of power strategy together." Elias smiled faintly. The giant was awake. The first battle was won, but the galaxy had not yet tested them fully. There would be greater threats, ancient enemies, and hidden powers waiting. Yet he felt no fear. Humans had always adapted. Humans had always survived. And now a human mind guided a weapon stronger than most civilizations. Outside the viewport, the stars stretched endlessly. The silent giant, fully alive, pulsed with energy, awaiting the challenges ahead. Elias knew the coming trials would push him to limits he had never imagined. Yet one truth remained clear. Human ingenuity, courage, and creativity were unmatched. And in that knowledge, Elias felt unstoppable. The Titan had awakened, and the galaxy would never forget the human who had brought it back to life. The silent giant had fully awakened. Its massive hull gleamed with pulsing energy, shields strong and unyielding, weapons calibrated and ready. The stars around it seemed to shine brighter as if the universe itself sensed a new force. Elias Varon stood at the command console, sweat and grime on his hands, but his eyes burned with determination. "Sentinel," he said, his voice calm but firm, "we've come a long way, but now we must face the real test." "Yes, human, full power, unknown threats approaching," the AI replied. Its voice resonated through the ship, steady and confident. "We can protect or destroy. Choice rests with you." Elias took a deep breath. That choice had never been clearer. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries. Aliens assumed strength came from numbers and weapons, but humans had something unique: creativity, courage, and moral judgment. The silent giant, guided by a human mind, was proof of that truth. The sensors detected a massive fleet emerging from hyperspace. Not raiders this time, but an organized armada, armed and ready to dominate entire systems. They had heard rumors of the awakened giant and intended to claim or destroy it. "They want the ship," Elias said quietly, scanning the formation, "and they will not stop until they either control it or destroy it." Sentinel's voice was calm. "Human strategy is required. Their tactics are strong but predictable. You think differently." Elias smiled faintly. Humans always did. He activated the ship's main shields fully. Energy flared across the hull, shimmering like a living barrier. Weapons systems powered up, plasma cannons aligning, graviton projectors ready, drones deployed in formation. The ship had become a living weapon, but Elias had no intention of using it recklessly. Power without purpose was dangerous. The enemy fleet advanced, energy beams streaking across the void, striking shields and hull. The giant groaned under the pressure, but it held. Elias watched patterns in the attack, noting repetition, timing, and gaps. Humans were not strongest by force alone, they won by adaptation. "Sentinel, follow my lead," Elias commanded. "We'll show them the human difference." Using the graviton projectors, he pulled small asteroids from a nearby belt into calculated paths, scattering enemy ships and forcing them into disorder. Plasma beams fired with precision, disabling engines and weapons, leaving ships stranded but intact. Elias was careful. He wanted to demonstrate strength, not destruction. Yet the armada had a leader, a massive dreadnought, bigger and more heavily armed than any vessel he had faced before. It cut through the chaos, aiming straight for the giant. Human, this vessel is dangerous. Its weapons can destroy the city-sized hull, Sentinel warned. Elia's mind raced. He could rely on the ship's firepower, but raw strength alone would not win this battle. Humans could think differently, adapt, and use creativity to overcome impossible odds. Prepare a diversion, he said. We'll use their confidence against them. The giant shifted its position, creating false gravitational fields that disrupted the dreadnoughts' targeting systems. The massive ship fired blindly, missing repeatedly. Meanwhile, drones swooped in from above and below, targeting vulnerable sections of the enemy vessel. Energy beams struck weak points Elias had predicted, disabling engines, shields, and weapons sequentially. The dreadnought reeled, but it was not finished. It unleashed a concentrated energy blast, striking the giant's shield. Panels shattered, corridors shook, and alarms blared. Elias gritted his teeth, adjusting energy flows, rerouting power from secondary systems to critical shields, and reinforcing hull integrity. Human adaptation is working. They are confused we can win, Sentinel said. Elias nodded. Good, now we end this. He focused all remaining energy into the ship's primary weapon, a massive adaptive plasma cannon that had remained dormant until now. It pulsed with energy, resonating through the hull, and fired in a calculated strike. The blast hit the dreadnought's core precisely, overloading its systems and causing a controlled detonation. The enemy flagship disintegrated in a brilliant flash, leaving debris to drift harmlessly in space. The rest of the armada, seeing their leader destroyed and their fleet in chaos, retreated. Their formation shattered, they fled without further resistance. Elias allowed himself a rare smile. The giant had fought, but it was his human mind that had guided it to victory. Human, you are clever, adaptive. Worthy galactic observers will take note, Sentinel said proudly. Elias walked through the ship's massive corridors, checking damage and repairing minor breaches. Drones moved efficiently, repairing panels and restoring energy systems. The ship was alive, but it was alive under his guidance. Humans had not only awakened a Titan, they had learned to control it responsibly. He studied the holographic maps again. The coordinates of hidden sectors pulsed faintly. Ancient war machines, lost civilizations, and powerful relics waited. The ship could reach them, explore, and protect. Elias realized the true potential. This was not just a weapon. It was a guardian, capable of influencing the balance of the galaxy. Sentinel, he said quietly, we can protect worlds, prevent wars, and guide the galaxy towards stability. We can be more than just a weapon. Yes, human. We can if guided by judgment and courage together. Elias allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. Humans were underestimated not because they lacked strength, but because others had forgotten what humans could do with creativity, adaptability, and morality. A human mechanic had awakened a sleeping giant, outwitted fleets, and demonstrated that intelligence combined with ethical choice was stronger than technology alone. Outside, distant civilizations watched in awe. News spread quickly. A colossal starship had awakened, guided by a human. Some feared it, some admired it, and some wondered how one human could command such power. Elias knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy would challenge him again, test him, and perhaps fear him. But he also knew humans were uniquely suited to rise to those challenges. He returned to the control chamber, hands on the console, staring at the stars. The ship hummed with life, waiting for its next mission. Sentinel, what do we do now? Elias asked. We explore, we protect, we guide human, your mind, our strength together. Elias smiled. That was enough. They had won the first great trial, and the galaxy had witnessed humanity's ingenuity. The silent giant, once abandoned and forgotten, now pulsed with purpose. Humanity had reclaimed its place among the stars, not through conquest, but through intelligence, creativity, and courage. He thought of the challenges ahead, unknown fleets, hidden relics, ancient enemies, and civilizations in need. The giant could face them all, but only because humans could think beyond patterns, beyond protocols, beyond fear. That was the real power. The ship's engines roared to life. With a soft tremor, it lifted from its stationary position among the asteroids, heading toward distant stars. Elias felt a thrill he had never known. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a navigator of destiny, a human mind guiding a force unmatched in the galaxy. As they moved forward, Sentinel's voice filled the chamber, calm and confident. Human, together, we will shape the galaxy with wisdom, with courage, with creativity. Elias nodded. Yes, sentinel together. And so the silent giant, once a dying relic, became the galaxy's most formidable guardian. Not through fear, not through mindless power, but through human ingenuity, courage, and moral choice. The legend of Elias Varan, the human mechanic who awakened a titan, spread across star systems, inspiring civilizations everywhere to remember the true strength of humanity. The galaxy had changed forever. And at the heart of that change was a single truth. Humans, with their creativity and courage, were capable of greatness beyond measure. The stars stretched endlessly before them. Adventure awaited. Challenges would come. But the silent giant, guided by a human mind, would face them all. The Titan had awakened. Humanity had triumphed, and the galaxy would never forget.